All right. I'll pause that.
And just go a little
Okay.
silent.
Okay. There we go.
There we go. That's all you have to do. You just have to hit the broadcast button.
and then you're golden.
Magically things just appear and people appear. So that's awesome. So look, so what's up, everyone? Brooke and I were sitting here and we're like, I think there's I know that had 300 something people attend and now we've got 120 something. So this makes a lot more sense. It shows 0 attendees while you're waiting as a panelist. This is my 3rd Zoom webinar. And so it's oh yeah, we should probably wait for, some people to show up. So it looks like for some reason, I think we might be capped at, hey, what's going on, man? How are you? Looks like we might be capped at 150. I'll text
Okay.
Allie Ray, but yeah, let's get cranking, everyone.
I would like to learn something new. And so I feel like we just had a shared learning experience here on Zoom webinar.
That's right. Okay. There's more people. There's more people. So there's 155. Okay. It's not capped. All right.
Okay,
We're good.
cool.
All right. What's going on, everyone? So, hey, appreciate all you joining. Go ahead, drop in the chat here, maybe company, job title. We are going to spend the next 30 minutes or so, maybe a little bit longer. Brooke's going to go overtime, talking about messaging today. And so talking about, look, in today's world of uncertainty, what's working, what's not working. Okay, cool. We've got some owners, head of BD, love it. Just keep dropping in companies, ADP, what's up? And then my friends, instead of using chat for questions, make sure put your questions in the Q&A component. So there's 2 different things. We've got this little chat function here. This is for all the fun stuff. Again, man, we've got Robert Half. Hey, what's up, Robert Half? I know you guys have got a lot going on right now, I'm sure. So we got a lot of folks in here, some ADP folks, SDRs, good. We got a lot of good mix in here. So again, drop your questions for us in the Q&A section. Do not drop it here. I'll do my best if you drop it here. I just can't promise anything, okay?
The chat gets a little masked sometimes on when there's
good though. It's good. We got a lot of folks. We've got let's see. He sent me a nice note on Instagram too. It's I'm gonna butcher it. Brooke, I'm really bad at names. So this is our first webinar. So I think it's Hitcham. I'm just gonna get Hitcham Amin. Anyway, we're gonna look at his email. He sent it to me on he sent it to me on Instagram. He sent it to me on LinkedIn. So
nice.
we gotta shout him out. So anyway,
Right.
look, so the topic today, and look, why I invited Brooke, Brooke is one of our senior consultants at Skaled. She's also an amazing founder of a company here in Austin. And Brooke is one of the most, I'll call it empathetic people that I know. And I think why companies love working with her and why our clients enjoy working with her, and just her natural, and why I enjoy working with her is that, is really the ability to kind of see the other side of the story. And I think right now, more than anything, that is what a lot of us are trying to do. A lot of us are trying to, we really want to be there for our clients. We really want to be there for our buyers. We don't want to come off as insecure, or maybe we're nervous or scared about coming off as predatory or, just tone deaf. And so we're going to spend 30 minutes kind of talking through empathy today when you're thinking about your messaging here as well too. And we're going to then walk through some live examples. So Morgan Ingram and I, we did a session last night and we talked a little bit about some of these emails and things that people have put out there. And so I think, again, everyone start dropping some of your questions around, modern demand gen, drop those in there. And as we go through this, I'll start to kind of cycle through those. But Brooke, I want to start with you.
Yeah.
Maybe let's talk about what are you seeing with your clients, and look, and even as a founder, you're talking to a lot of, VCs and other people in the ether. So both from a client standpoint and then as a founder too, what's the temperature like? What are your clients asking about, and what do you see people struggling with the most right now?
Well, I think what I see people struggling across the board is nobody knows. And so we're so programmed to know, especially in sales. People look to us to know. And what happens when we know is that we stop being curious. And then especially in a time like this, we're walking into the unknown where anybody you talk to who thinks that they can tell the future is going to be wrong, because nobody knows. Even the experts, they don't really know. We're making all of these educated guesses. We're truly putting one foot in front of the other. And so that's across the board, whether that's talking to a VC, whether that's talking to clients I have, whether that's me looking internally and working with some of the interns that are part of our team and having them say, gosh, you're building a company for women business travelers. Like, what does that mean for this? So I'm seeing that it's this whole notion of not knowing. And there is a power in being able to say, I don't know, but here's what I do know. And here's how I can create the most value for you right now. And when things change, you're going to be the first to know, because it's going to come from me, and it's going to be because I know your business. I understand what you're going through. And if I don't understand, I really do want to understand.
And what do you see as the issue, right? So if you think about, this idea that we want to understand, but maybe we don't quite, you and I, we talked about this morning a little bit. What do you see as like, what's the mental barrier? Like, when it comes to being in sales? And we've got some questions in here. Jacob's got a question, about like, being a resource during this time and things like that. I think a lot of people, like, what do you see as the gap? Like, what do you think people are struggling with the most to be able to make that flip, to really just say, okay, hey, look, this is a new world. Now I'm prepared to kind of have those conversations.
Yeah, I don't know that anybody's really prepared, because we've been running at such a pace in the market where we maybe didn't have to be as prepared and know our customer at a very intimate level, which means walking in his or her shoes. So I think the big gap that I'm seeing is that maybe we're running into a brick wall of not knowing our customer and not being able to step into their shoes. And so we're making these assumptions. We're not showing curiosity. And it's easy to do right now. It's easy to say, gosh, the whole world's going crazy. How can I help you? Well, nobody really knows what kind of help they need. So I think before we do that outreach to customers, it's in each one of our best interests to take a step back and say, and ask ourselves honestly, do we really know our customer? And if we don't, that's okay, because there's so many resources to look to start to get to know, so that we can see the themes that are coming up, the pain points that are coming up, the potential opportunities that are coming up. There's so many, but if we don't take a step back to look at that, it's going to be really hard to have proactive outreach and empathetic outreach.
And and again, like I think like showing people some examples. Actually, we've got a question, Jamie S. I'm just going to say it because I will not say it correctly. It's like, do you have an example of prospective outreach? So I think people are looking for that, right now. So then she has to follow up about, what are you using to replace direct mail campaigns? Any good vendor suggestions? So we've talked about that. And look, whenever we talked before, this is really, I think, everything. That the reason people are struggling is because we haven't been used to really thinking through what is my buyer going through right now? And then therefore, how do I adapt my messaging, period? This doesn't, now it's just more hypersensitive, but my friends, this is at the heart of all sales. At the heart of all sales is, being able to think, okay, this person's a CEO, it's a small company. These things happen. They may be thinking about this. And then you kind of go in with a couple of things to show, like, look, I'm paying attention to what's happening, but you also go in curious enough too, to not be overly assumptive. You know what I mean? So yeah. I think that's I think a really important kind of component of this. And so I think a lot of this for people is, it's getting back to what a lot of people would call the fundamentals of sales, which is, look, and this is what I say is, like, if you don't know how a company makes money, if you don't know what they actually do and what that person does in their job, how can you really help them? Instead, you can give them product information. You don't need to know anything about someone to give them product information, but how can you really help them? And I think now is the time where, before you start to send messaging, if you just cleared your calendar for tomorrow and cleared your calendar for Friday, and you said, look, I sell to directors of operations in these 3 groups, and you just went crazy on Google for 48 straight hours, right? Just Google. Just, that's it. The answer to every question you have. Oh, I wonder what my buyer is going through. Google is the answer. Just lots of Google. right?
Google solves a lot of problems.
And yeah, Google YouTube, right? And so that's it, my friends. Like just, I feel like now is the time to start to invest, to get to know what your buyers are going through, and then being curious on your, when you do have conversations, asking questions and being okay with that, asking questions and saying, look, hey, I work with a lot of, VPs of operations and like, what is your life like, right? Tell me about that. And that's okay. I mean, people want to talk about it. They're coked up at home all day. And I think people are open to talk to you about it.
I think so too, Jake. And I think from a framework standpoint, if we're going to give some of the team here on this call, and thank you for that, almost 200 people on here today, that if you take a step back and do exactly what you said, Jake, is say, who do I sell to? And what is a day in the life of? And by the way, how do they make money? But also, how does their company make money? And Google some stuff. But start with like, what are their motivations? If you can come up with every buyer 2 to 3 very clear and distinct motivations, and maybe do them across industries if you sell to multiple industries. And then from there, come up with 10 or 15 pain points. We all have them, whether we're in this market, the market that we just left, and the new market that we don't know what we're walking into, but there are pains that exist. And what you'll find is, my sense is you'll see some common threads that you can pull up, and you can start to go to people, not with leading about the product, but exactly hey, here's what I'm hearing from the other VP of operations that I work with. Is this true for you? One of the things that I think we overlook in sales is that because we see a lot of industries and we talk to a lot of people, the VP of operations in one company isn't always talking to hundreds of VP of operations. And so they have their own pain points and they go into silos. If we can help our customers come out of the silos, look at what the pain is and where the opportunities lie beyond that pain, that is where we become trusted partners. Whether you're in sales, whether you're a CEO, it doesn't matter. This is how you build authentic connection with people. And man, we're starving for it. We are seeing that happen with the way that we're working remotely and using video now to see each other.
Yeah. And I think, look, so this is so John Grispin, I nailed that one. I'm 100% sure I got that one right. So look, I think John brings up an interesting, he said, isn't it marketing's job to piece together personas and ICPs?
Well, I think it's everybody's job to come full hands on deck right now. Marketing and sales exist in tandem, and there's always causal tension between good marketing and sales teams. But as a salesperson, you're talking to your customer every day. You understand the pulse. And so even if your marketing team has come up with an ICP, that doesn't mean you can't contribute to it. And the way sales speaks to a customer is very different than marketing teams speak to the customer. And that's good because it's how we compress a message. It's how you sandwich yourself or kind of bear hug a customer. So right now, it cannot be a not in my backyard kind of conversation. It just can't.
I agree. Well, dude, it's just like, if you're marketing, like, as sales, like I have to know this. Like I don't, if marketing does it, if my grandma, my mom does it, Nana, whoever, like it doesn't matter. Like I got to know who the buyer is. Like how I cannot have an intelligent business conversation with someone if I don't know what they're going through. And that to me is so critical that if I cannot be effective. I can't be good if I don't know what you're going through. So look, I get the point of the question, but I think like kind of what you're hearing from us is like, you know what I'm saying? Like you can't really worry about it. So, you've got to do it yourself.
It's back on people who are parents. Do you ask your marketing team to develop ICPs for your kids? You don't, but we all have personas that we're working through. Whether that's our kids, our friends, like, sales is about moving people, and it doesn't matter whether you call that your profession or not. We are all in sales, and so it's all of us coming to the table to say, who do we provide the greatest value to, and how do we do it?
Yeah. So I like this question right here from Z Proskershim. I'm sure that's absolutely not correct, but it says, or she says, should we make cold calls at all right now or wait? Talking about clients we don't know, a true cold call. look, my answer is, look, yes. Meaning, look, every single person, Brooke, I don't know if you can reach for it. Every single person has their phone literally sitting right next to them. There you go. And so, and I'm going to tell you, my phone now is ringing, maybe 8 to 10 times a day, something like that. And so my friends, God, it's like, the phone rings. Like I've answered 2 telemarketing calls this week. You know how many I've answered before that? I'm just like, oh God, fine. I'll just go talk to this sales dude. Right. Like, so I think the key is it goes back to what Brooke and I are talking about. And it goes back to, and I promise Jamie, we're going to get to your question, which is like what type of messaging. It's the messaging has to say, hey, Jake, this is John. Look, I've talked to a couple people at Skaled. They said, look, right now is obviously you guys are going through some transition, some changes. But they said that at the end of the day, you basically are the ultimate person around finance and operations. Is that right, Jake? Again, like it's just like that little extra layer of empathy. And then I'm like, yeah, that's me, and then we can get into it a little bit, Mm-hmm. So I feel like I'm totally fine with people making cold calls as long as you just put that little bit in the beginning, put that little bit of extra knowing it.
I think so. And it's not a cold call if you have taken the time to get to know the industry, really understand how your product contextually fits in it, and how your customer will receive you and the value you can bring. You define your value first and the value that you can bring your customer, and it becomes a warm call. Because you can immediately engage, build rapport, and connect, and then talk about meaningful things. But if it's just picking up the phone to pick up the phone, don't do that right now because you will not be effective. So cold calling, maybe not, but let's call it researched calling and value-based calling. And that is going to win every day.
Yeah. And look, it's okay. Like Chris Chavez, like it's definitely still a cold call. Like, so like, dude, my friends, yeah, like you're still in sales. Like, that doesn't mean that you can, like, we have to persevere, and there's ways to do things that don't come off cold or insincere. Like, I feel like we always think that it's binary. It's this or that. Like, I think I can make a pretty damn sincere cold call right now, because again, I know what my buyers are going through, and I know that, look, when I'm talking to a CEO, good friend of mine runs a company that's raised a ton of money but guess what? Their main customers are restaurants. They're in the hospitality space, hotels and restaurants, right? What's he going through? Right? A lot, right? Then I have a conversation with another person literally right before I got on here. Guess what? They just raised $5 million. They're in the podcast business. Their business is exploding. They hit their annual number yesterday. And so you got to be able to show up and think about this stuff, and I think that's the big thing for a lot of people. So let's do this. So here's what I'm going to do. And so John Paul, like, is it appropriate to make calls if your solution isn't relevant? Yeah, of course it is. But you can make calls about whatever you want to. But what I want you to do is just be smart about how you position it. Hey, look, I'm sure there's some things that are happening in your space, in your world. It's not about, your solution. It's what's happening in their people's world. Like, I feel like that's what's up.
Well, and to give an example of this, so think about the capital markets right now. They're kind of seized up. And so if you are in the space of lending money, that's a tough place to be right now because there's so much uncertainty. But if you're selling into that space, right now your product may not be totally relevant if you quote that. But what's relevant is that you can bring valuable information about how the capital markets are opening back up, and how we might not be able to say yes to something today, but what we can say yes to is providing you valuable information. And so what I'd like to do is set you up on my call list to call you every Monday to just let you know what's what, so that you can make better decisions about growing your own business if you're looking for funding. So it may not be relevant, but it's still relevant, and there's ways to show value.
I love that. Yeah, I think that's right. So I think, look, so a lot of you, like, I want to jump into this. Like, I think that the theme that you're hearing from both of us, can you still see my video? Am I still here?
You're still here.
Okay, right. You can see my share screen too. Okay. So I think a lot of people is, they're really trying to figure out, what does this mean? Okay. I get it. I want to be empathetic. Right. And I I think we have a concept of this, but if and for me, it's just like, it's so ingrained in my, like my psyche of like this idea of adapting and mirror match and just salesy stuff. But I think for a lot of people, they're struggling with the what. So I thought would be helpful is I pulled together some emails, and Morgan Ingram and I did this last night, but we've got some fresh new ones that I wanted to talk through. And I thought it'd be helpful. Like, let's just talk about this. So, Brooke, when you look at some of this messaging, what I'd love to do is maybe, and I think you've had a chance to look at some of this. So was this a LinkedIn message right here? Is this a LinkedIn?
It was. So thank you, Julie. And I did promise her I'll give her some feedback on this too in writing to kind of help her wordsmith it. But
yeah. So what are your thoughts here? So again, really looking forward to LinkedIn Live with Jake. If you had any time to review the message towards CBD companies, I'd really appreciate. So here's her message right here, right? So this is her email. Let me just make it a little easier to read here. I'll take this out. Okay.
Yeah, you can delete.
Sentence. So there we go. All right. So here we go. So, all right. So when you read this, like, what are some of the things that kind of stand out to you? Again, like whenever you look at like this type of email.
Yeah. I mean, I think so there's some generalization of stress and anxiety is rampant all over the world. What I think Julie has the opportunity to do is to hone in on what stress, because there's actually euphoric stress. There's also distress. Euphoric stress actually fuels a lot of things in a positive manner. Distress kind of compromises our immune system, right? So there is this notion of like being able to quantify what the stress is for your particular customer, so that they can understand, like, you got me. What I call it is you're meeting your customer at the level of their own emotional wherewithal. And so I think there's an opportunity if you want to lead with that works. But I think and there's some assumptions that are made. So as you know, this presents an opportunity. I think there's an opportunity to not make assumptions about what somebody knows, but instead ask a question. And this is where getting really clear on who your customer is, what motivates them today in this market, because that's all we know. The past is gone, the future, we have no idea what we're walking into, but what motivates them today and what is the greatest amount of pain? Then you can intersperse that into this messaging where they're like, oh, I haven't even met Julie yet, but like, she gets me. That person is going to pick up your phone call when you call.
Yeah. And because when I look in here, I just feel like you talk about it up here, but you don't connect it here. And I think, look, real empathy is saying stress and these things are happening, right now. I think, again, like what's happening with these people? Well, like, let's just talk through it for, what was it? Julie, was that her name?
Julie.
So for Julie, like, what's happening? Well, a lot of marketing, they're getting their budget cut, right? A lot of marketing is like, whoa, we're going to hold off and wait and spend right now. Right. Mm-hmm. But you're not, again, it's like, what are these marketers going through? That's what for me is missing here. It's that connecting of like, look, I got you. I know as a VP of digital right now, you might not know what spend looks like. And you're just using a bunch of logos that are CBD. And I feel like, if you want to truly show that you get it, it's more about like, look, is this something that you're thinking is how to optimize this spend in times like this? Is that important to you right now? And just see what that value prop is. You know what I mean?
And I think, Jake, that's a great question, because I know Julie's new to her role. And so my sense is Julie might just be figuring some stuff out. So this is the perfect time, especially if you're new in sales, to play the new card and ask a lot of really good questions.
I love that.
And you know what? We're all new to this marketplace. No one has been through this. So we get to ask a lot of really good questions and show that curiosity. And likely people are not going to be offended by that, because it shows a level of curiosity. That's so right. I think we can ask questions here if you don't know the answers. And that's also going to let somebody maybe be a mentor to you. There's a lot of wanting to give during this time too. And my sense is that you might have a lot of people who say, wow, she's new to this business. She's just trying to get started. I want to help her understand my motivation.
Yeah. It's like, as a marketer, right now, it's like, like there's just something in here that you need to just make sure you connect it, and you got to just cut this in half. What I used to say is cut it in half and double the value. And so, just that's how you have to think about this here. And so I hope that helps. Let's go to the next one here. So this is from Hitcham, which he did say I pronounced it right, which I'm very proud of myself. So here's his message. So let's see here. So hello, X. Along with my tiny team at Gemography, we've built a talent acquisition engine that allows startups to find best product engineers and hire them to join the team remotely. We've loved seeing Stripe lead the movement by waking their next generation. I'm guessing he's reaching out to Stripe here. Many people are still reluctant to collaborate remotely for legitimate reasons. So we're trying to understand and see how we can turn that around. Given your experience hiring engineers, I'd love to get your thoughts on a few questions. Look, for me, I'll give my 2 cents. Is this a sales call, dude, or is this a product feedback call? You pick your poison. Like to me, as a CEO, there's nothing more annoying than an email like this, because I know what you're actually trying to get at. Like, I know that you're actually trying to sell me, but you're wrapping it in the guise of like, I want to get product feedback. And what I feel like is, again, look, remote work is all over the place now, but there's no reference to like, hey, as a CEO, look, I know remote work is probably like super top of mind for you. I feel like this is an email that you could have sent like a month ago. And so it's like, it sounds like your product is actually kind of relevant to some of this stuff, but I just don't see any acknowledgement of what's happening and then the connection to the two. So that's I like the questions. I'm okay with this, but again, experienced hiring engineers, I'd love to get your thoughts on a few questions. Like, I think you can just ask for the meeting. You know, it's okay to have a call to action, or don't ask for the meeting, but this in between is literally like one of my Achilles heel. Like, I can't stand it.
Well, wishy-washy drives me bonkers, because I really enjoy speaking with people who can articulate what they want. And I want it to be direct. I want people to be direct with me because I'm direct with other people. And it's really important to cutting through the BS. But and so I would love to, like, if this is a product feedback call or feedback email, call it that. Right. That's fine. But like, if you want to understand how to turn it around, ask a good question about how would you turn it around? This is how we're thinking about tackling this, and this is what we think about remote work. Like, give your perspective, develop a very clear point of view, and then ask for what you want. That is, like, salespeople tiptoe around a lot of things. Don't do it. There's no need. Ask for what you want, for what you need. It is amazing when you do that, what comes through. Brick walls you had up, those are doors you now walk through when you ask for what you want.
Yeah. And I think you've got it in here. You're a remote hub type product. So I think, like, it seems timely, but I want you to connect it to what's happening. And in, like, to Brooke's point, be direct. So Brooke, I'm going to let you share your screen.
Sure.
And I know you're going to walk through a few more here. So I'm going to let Brooke take over for a little bit here and kind of walk through a few of these, couple kind of parting Q&As. Let's see, kind of rapid fire here, if we can get through some of these. Let's see, Pablo, given current situation, appropriate calls to action that don't feel like an outright sales. So anonymous attendee asks, like, what's an appropriate call to action that doesn't feel like an outright sales hook? I think what we're trying to say is, like, there isn't one. Like, either your call to action is a product feedback call. It is a, hey, here's what it's an education. Like, here's kind of what we're up to. I know things are crazy. I'll catch up with you in 2 weeks. Or it's, hey, this is what we do. This is why it's relevant. And here's why I think you should give a shit. Let's set a time to meet. Like, so anonymous attendee, whoever you might be, you're very mysterious.
I like it.
that is my take. And I think Brooke is, I think Brooke kind of seconds that, around that. I don't want to speak for her. Okay. So we've got a couple more Q&A in here. I work in sales enablement. This is Natalie. What's up, Natalie? Should we be focusing now on enabling our sales team for what the environment will be 5 weeks from now? How do you forecast for what that will be? My vote is no. I think Natalie, you need to start putting in 10 to 12 hour days right now. And I need you listening to every single sales call. I need you looking at the messaging that your team's sending, and I need you rewriting everything for them in real time. Natalie, like, sales enablement was built for times like this, to enable sales. I need you focused on right now. That would be my hot take.
I could not agree with you more. Nobody can forecast what's going on. So the best you can do is be rewriting and providing content in real time to the team.
All right, everyone. Well, look, I've got to drop for a sec, but my good friend Brooke is going to keep dominating. So look, everyone, I super appreciate you turning in. She's going to spend another 15, 20 minutes. Maybe if you're nice and you keep dropping the questions in, she'll be here for forever. But we're going to be doing another webinar tomorrow, same exact time, same link. Allie Ray can confirm that. I think that's right. Same link, same everything. So make sure it's marked in your calendar. And so today we're really focused on messaging. And I think Brooke has just destroyed this from an empathy standpoint, and exactly kind of what I'm thinking here is what I hope you all are getting out of this. And I want to give you all tactical advice, right? Tactical, what should you do right now in the moment? What's working? And I think what you're seeing, there's going to be themes. And so I think as we walk through a few of this, and there's so much good Q&A in here. And I apologize. Look, get at Brooke or I on LinkedIn if we don't get to your Q&A here, because you guys are just dropping in some really, really good ones. And we'll do our best to get at you. So Brooke, let's keep diving into some emails here.
I like it. Is Allie on? Does she want to join me on voice while we go through this?
I'm happy to.
Let's do it. All right. Thanks, Jake. Okay, yes, everyone, thank you so much for staying on. We will stay on another 15 minutes or so. I did want to let y'all know, if you want to drop me a DM, I am happy to take a look at and provide feedback, write some copy on some of the emails that you're looking to send. I do want to help y'all right now, because there is no time like now to really hone your messaging and get to know your customers. So like what I would say, if you just spend the next day taking a step back from your just rote way of doing things and asking yourself if you really know your customer, and if you don't, be honest with yourself, it's okay. But then spend some time to map out your own personas. Because the truth is like, your marketing team doesn't know right now, because we don't know what the future is going to hold. Your sales leader is just trying to figure things out. And if you are a sales leader, be honest with your team about that and look for ways to collaborate. It's amazing that we're looking for all of these external ways to collaborate with our customer, internal collaboration and real time. And looking in real time as to what we're actually saying to our customers and what we want from our customers is so important. I had a call this morning with one of my customers who's in the energy space. And it was so telling, because someone said, well, I work with a lot of startups in the energy space, and, I just don't know their business as well as they know their business. Well, of course, somebody who is in oil field services and has dedicated their life to oil field services, for instance, they know that business probably better than you do as a sales rep. But what they also don't know is all of the people who are in oil field services who are suffering from the same pain points. And that's where you as a salesperson have a very different point of view that you can bring, and there is value in that point of view. And I think oftentimes when we're so myopic in making sure we make the number of calls that we need to make, or setting up our email sequences, or following up, or making demos, or doing discovery calls, we forget to ask ourselves these questions about like, what are people going through? And the truth is if we do that now, you're going to be far better positioned to be immediately effective in the new market that we're going to walk into, because the world that we knew doesn't exist any longer, and the world we're walking into is unknown, which means you get to define it for yourself. So I'm going to look at a couple of these questions. Allie, do you have anything you want to jump in on while I'm looking at a question?
Oh, this is absolutely, this is what we're going to talk about tomorrow. I'm the special guest. Hey, everyone. Hope you can join us tomorrow. But yeah, if you really have to know what they're going through and what their pain points are. Jake had this really great example last night when he was chatting up Morgan Ingram with a White Claw in hand. And he said, if you're selling like cybersecurity, people are working from home. So you're pointing out what they're dealing with, and you're pointing out the problem that they're trying to solve. So understanding where your client is and their journey and the issues and stuff that they're trying to solve is going to help your messaging and help you kind of secure that meeting.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Allie. So Adrian Moores just asked, our team sells into university research labs. They're dealing with a lot of shutdowns at the moment. I'm challenged on how to approach those customers without seeming opportunistic. University research labs might be shutting down, And I also know a lot of university research labs are looking for ways that they can extend their reach in order to provide support to some of the frontline staffers who are in the healthcare space. And I'm making a jump that the university research labs are also in healthcare. And so as a salesperson right now, yeah, you might not be able to get after people who are shutting their labs down, but you can connect with the individuals who are affected by those labs and talk to them about areas where they might be able to volunteer. There's a ton of companies and nonprofit companies right now that are looking to volunteer to 3D print masks for some of the folks who are on the front lines working with people in the hospitals. And so I think there's ways to go to some of the people that you know at a lab that's been shut down temporarily and help them find other ways that they can contribute. And while, yes, I know you haven't sold anything, but you've also developed a trusted relationship for the long term so that when they are back in business, you're going to be able to bring some value. So I think that there's some creative ways to be able to drive this home for your customers.
Absolutely. Yeah. You said it best.
So let's see, Juan Pablo Doniz, I hope I said that correctly. How would you approach an inbound campaign, ads, personalized emailing, blog posts, LinkedIn posts, given the current situation globally?
So we're talking about marketing tomorrow. So definitely tune in, Juan Pablo, tomorrow. But right now, I mean, I don't know if you would agree, Brooke, but right now it's all about, it's all about positioning your brand and kind of making sure that you're staying top of mind. And, it's not a time to just like we've been talking about, sell. And it's really a time to show like the personality elements of your brand, and the personality behind it.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Allie. I think, one of the other tasks that it might take you 8 hours, and I do a lot of meditation, so I get a lot of good answers when I meditate. So however you get to a place of stillness, I think it's really important, and it behooves us now, if we've been in any kind of go-to-market sales position, to ask ourselves, what is our expertise? What is our point of view? And what do we love doing? We've got the time to look at all three of those things. And those are going to be the elements of your personality that you can bring to an inbound or an outbound campaign. But if you don't know that stuff about yourself right now, that's fine. But ask yourself those questions, because that's going to help you decide what value you want to bring now. And then that's also going to be your stepping stone to creating value in this new market. Like, you get to take control of this and manifest your own destiny. You might as well take this time to understand your value as much as you take the time to understand your customer.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's all about the customer. And I think, like Jake has said it before, 2020 is definitely the year of the customer. It's the year of their experience and understanding them. So kind of understanding what value that you bring to them and what you love doing and those having those aligned is really going to help that out. So, I mean, a lot of people, I think Facebook is the number one site on the whole internet, on the whole of the internet. Facebook is the number one site right now. So many people are working from home. They have Facebook pulled up, they're scrolling through the feed. It's easy to take a break while you're working. And a lot of companies are not advertising. And it's just, I see it as a missed opportunity. Now is the time to position those value props. Now is the time to position that brand. How are you giving back? How are you providing humanitarian effort? How are you responding? How are you treating your employees? And all of that. Yeah.
I think a great example, if you want to see something, Arnie Sorensen, who's the CEO of Marriott, put out an incredible video response. It was heartfelt, it was authentic, it was direct, and it was no BS. Like, he's just not tiptoeing around the tough decisions that they're having to make at Marriott. And he also showed how much he cares for the people there. I applaud the Marriott team for what they put out and what Arnie was willing to do, and for him to show the vulnerability that he showed. And vulnerability is key. We sometimes think that's a weakness. It is an incredible strength. And I know Brene Brown, if you know her, has talked a lot about this. Right now is the time to look at how you can be vulnerable and show that to your clients. If you lead a sales team, to show that to your sales team members, and ask for help. If you don't know, ask for help, because there. So Lynn asked about what comes of renewals and upsells. I can't even talk. Upsells. I think that if you can't upsell now, you can show your vulnerability and develop a rapport and help your customer understand that you're there to be supportive right now, that when that time comes for renewal, they'll remember that. But you have to be willing to show that you don't know, but you're willing to learn. And I think no time like the present to do that. And I don't think anybody's going to criticize anybody for not knowing right now, because nobody does.
Agreed.
So Anonymous said, should we focus the majority of our efforts on C-level VP executives during this period, given their ability to mobilize resources? Man, that's a tough call. I would say it depends on who your customer is. If you decide that your customer all of a sudden is C-level or VP, but they never have been, and you don't really know how to speak with them, I wouldn't go there. And there's a lot of people, I think there's a lot of distribution across organizations right now, because everybody in real time is trying to figure out how they're going to address things, that there's a lot of distributed decision-making power. And so I think this comes back to, you should focus the majority of your efforts on where the context of your product in this market and the pain points that your customer is experiencing, where all of that intersect. And that's where you should focus those efforts. And it may be to the C-suite or VP level.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think, that all comes down again to knowing who your customer is, knowing that ICP, and who the decision makers are in, because it's not always the VP, it's not always those individuals who are going to drive the decision. So knowing who your customers are gonna be able to help you with that.
Yeah, definitely. And then Rachel asks, she works in the entertainment space in the sports industry. How would you suggest reaching out to customers about attending an event this year? I know I've seen some of the sports teams who are talking about virtual events. And what's so silly for me to say that is we've been watching virtual sports events for Lord knows how long, because that's TV. And so I think there's an opportunity about asking people to attend things virtually, and also talking to them about what I'm hearing a lot of, and I am making a point to be on as many video Zoom calls as I can, or Hangouts, or whatever form you use. Because I really love to look people in the eye. And what I'm finding as I'm talking to more and more people is that the Zoom calls are great because you get to see people's expressions and you get to have that connection. But what you can never replace is that basic human connection. And the truth is we will be on the other side of this, and people will be chomping at the bit to connect again in meaningful ways. So maybe it is a virtual sporting event today, but it won't always be that way. And so being able to talk to your customers about what you can do for them right now, because that's all we know, but that it's not going to last. There is nothing in this life that is permanent. And so as a result, we will be on the other end of this, where we're going to be able to go up and give each other hugs. By the way, that I'm missing that on a regular basis. So I had to say that. And your customers are going to be able to go to sporting events, and maybe they're going to pay a lot more attention. They're not going to have their phones right in their face. And that's a way that I think you in the sporting industry can connect and talk to people and say, and like, create these visual experiences for what they can expect when they do go to that live event. And here's what they can do to be part of the action now. And I think, that's how I would approach it. I don't know, Allie, you might have a different way.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And, kind of playing too, I mean, everyone misses sports right now. I mean, it's like every meme that I've seen on Facebook is how much they miss sports, and they're like rallying against, like marbles racing down the driveway or something. So, I mean, kind of playing to that, so like you miss sports, now we're back. And kind of giving them an opportunity to get their sports in or whatever. So, playing again, knowing your customer, knowing what drives them, knowing all of those things are going to help you be able to direct your messaging and kind of play to their to what influences them.
Yeah, I like that. And Adam, hi Adam. So good to not see you, but see you. So Adam's question is, how much more important does internal practice for messaging become during these next few weeks? Example, if you sell to VP and directors of sales, should your internal VPs and directors be available for practice and feedback to help direct outreach messaging if they aren't already? That's a really great way to think about it. And I think it could be yes or no. I think right now as an organization, I'm encouraging all of the sales organizations that I have a chance to, that I'm working with, as well as my team, for us to have, if not daily, or definitely daily, if not every other day, collaboration sessions, so that we can be talking about who is the customer that we're speaking with. And if we know that it's a VP and a director of sales, like what is on their mind right now? I know for the companies that I'm working with, the sales team is looking for, how do we make sure that we are able to do the most proactive, timely, and compassionate outreach to our customers who are already our customers. And in some regards, they're taking a little bit of a step back from the outbound messaging, and they're really honing in on the inbound and what is part of like traditional account management. And so what's happening there is the VP and the CEO and the SDRs and the account executives are getting together every day to talk about the solutions and how we're handling things. And what's nice is the CEOs are sharing their perspective and what they're going through. And so I think this is one way that, if you haven't already done that, to encourage your teams to get together, even if it's for 15 minutes, to get a different perspective. And Adam, if you're organizing this for your team, maybe what you do is you come up with kind of your list of questions for the week that you want addressed, and then you ask somebody to facilitate that and share their perspective, and you kind of build your ideal customer profile around these different perspectives, so that when you're out there selling, you can take that right to the streets, and you're using firsthand knowledge, and you're able to go to your customer and say, here's what we're feeling, here's how we're thinking about things, how are you thinking about XYZ, and ask that question and just be silent and let somebody talk.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree, Brooke, because it's not just like what's on their mind right now, it's what's not on their mind. And what you're selling might not be on their mind right now. And that's okay, but how are you going to position, your pitch, or position, even just your services or the value prop that you're offering, to be able to get on their mind and get them thinking about it. So, so not only knowing like, okay, what are they thinking about? What are they going through? What are they trying to solve for? But if you have something like maybe they should be solving for this, positioning that question, and then yourself as the solution.
I agree. So, Sukhbir Singh, and I think I said that correctly, asks, which channel will be more successful, cold calling or personal emails, if selling into healthcare services?
I've seen a lot of healthcare just really active, just like healthcare SaaS and services, I guess, really active online. I've seen them active on LinkedIn. You might have a better perspective, Brooke, but just from my, going around on LinkedIn, I've seen them really active. So, so personal emails might be the way to go, but what do you think?
I've seen a lot active online. I think cold calls, although I don't think you should ever make a cold call. I think you should do some research before you make any kind of a call, which makes it, not cold. But I think online, so I think there's a couple ways to tackle this. I do think calling has merit, but you may not get as many answers. So you think about a meaningful message that you could leave for somebody based on the research that you've made. I think personal emails is important. If you're not engaged on some of these channels where a lot of the healthcare service providers who are on the front lines are asking for help, and they may be your customer, that's LinkedIn. Facebook, as Ali mentioned, is really big. There's a lot of groups that are just popping up every day that are looking for ways to be able to flatten the curve. And there's a lot of healthcare service providers that are part of those. Instagram is doing a lot, depending on who you follow. So you may need to change up who you follow. But I think that's where you can start to see some of the messages and some of the content that's being shared and infuse that into your personal emails. And who knows, you might actually see some of the people that you want to get a hold of in these channels, and you can connect in that way and let them know you sent them an email and let them know that you really understand what's going on. But I think you can still call and send an email. You just may not get as many answers right now on calls because people might be choosing not to look there, but they haven't left being online because they're asking for help.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also too, when you're doing these, like, again, hopefully it's not a cold call, but when you're doing these email pitches and calls and whatnot, you have to think, with healthcare services, it's just booming right now. So people are just kind of jumping on that. So, you're going to be in a sea of other people trying to do the same thing. So really focusing on your value prop, focusing on how are you different? What value can you provide that no one else can? And positioning that, I think that comes across a little bit better via email. And, people are getting calls left and right. And the last thing they want to do is get a call, out of nowhere trying to schedule a meeting or whatnot. So focusing in on what you can provide, where your value is, and how you're different from the rest will help you get that meeting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we'll do this last one, I think, maybe one more, but Wendy Campbell asks, she says, with a ton of trade shows being canceled, money already spent for booths, and those fees being pushed to the next event from the organizer, how do you get the wallet spend from a prospect for a digital online event? Considering digital events are new, not the quote same as in-person event, and budgets are spent, yet no ROI due to cancellation. But the customer needs the community interaction, buyer audience, networking, et cetera, by attending the event. What does the pitch sound like? Well, I think, so I've seen a friend of mine who is in the defense innovation space had to move a forum for a particular line of funding that the government does. And I would be remiss to even tell you what it is because I don't know enough about it. But what I do know is originally it was going to be part of the first part of kickoff of South by Southwest. And it got canceled for obvious reasons. And he was expecting about anywhere from 300 to 500 people in attendance based on what the needs were. And he reached out to his contacts in the military. They were able to put together in about a day and a half turnaround a virtual event that people did contribute to at the last minute. And they had over 1,500 attendees. And so the ROI actually was quite higher. So I think right now that yes, spend has been pushed in the event space, but this is the time where we can use virtual ways of connecting people to show that the ROI is in the regular connection after you leave a networking event. There's always that plateau effect where you've got this huge run up of the networking and people are all jittery and there's the high from leaving a conference, and then you've got a few days after where everyone's furiously making their follow-up, and then you've got things that taper off after a while. So what you could do, and I don't know what your company's supporting, so I'm making something up right now, but if it's within the bandwidth and the budget for the company, to start to offer these micro virtual events after live events, that actually could keep the connection higher and the networking effects even greater than what we've experienced with face-to-face interaction. And you're not giving up one for the other, you're allowing them to augment one another. And again, I recognize I just made something up on the fly for you, and that may not be the direction you're going. And if it's not, Wendy, please reach out to me on LinkedIn and I'm happy to go a little bit deeper. But that's my first reaction to kind of using the best of digital with what we know works about the face-to-face.
Yeah, and then really too, I mean, you can even really kind of emphasize, you know, like the buyer audience and the networking and whatnot by utilizing things like LinkedIn groups or Facebook groups, or, you know, there's companies like Bravado where you can do groups. So having these groups where people can join and get information about these digital events, where people can go in and connect with each other. You can answer questions. Speakers can go in and do like AMAs. And then also now you have this built-in community. And like Brooke said, you know, there's like a plateau where, you know, after the event it tapers off. But instead now you have this whole group that is, you know, unified in this and on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever platform you use. So now you can continue to pitch information, do posts, and you know, these like mini events that Brooke was saying, because you have the audience there. So showing the benefit and kind of emphasizing that, and that plateau is less likely because you're able to re-engage over and over on a daily basis, weekly basis, you know, pitch new events, re-engage, DM from those groups, all of that. Just emphasizing those things and why a digital event is important, and what it kind of brings to the table that an in-person event doesn't.
Yeah, I think augmentation here is key. We're never going to get rid of the face-to-face, but augmenting through virtual, this is a huge opportunity, I think, for all industries to look at how we can leverage that so people don't lose momentum. And man, if you're in the event planning space, this is a great way to be able to start to help people understand why that message, and bringing those two pieces together is really going to help game change their business.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I know we're at the top of the hour. I feel so fortunate to have been able to be a part of this today, and I'm so grateful to everybody for sharing your questions and being a part of things. And truly, if I can be of service to you, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to review content, and I can't wait to be able to engage with you all in the future. And thank you for staying on and being such a great audience. And Allie, thanks for jumping in.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, sorry Jake had to jump off. He had kind of a personal emergency he had to attend to, but yeah, I'm glad to do this with you. And again, anyone who's still on, please join us. Tomorrow you'll be able to see my face. So join me tomorrow, and Jake hopefully he'll be able to stay on the whole time tomorrow, but we'll be talking about marketing and what marketing can do right now. And then on Friday, we have Matt Lopez, who's a partner at Skaled, and we'll be talking about outbound strategy. So now you have like your messaging and your marketing and how that all ties in to your strategy, and just kind of tie it all together. Awesome.
Allie, you're going to rock it tomorrow. I can't wait to be on.
Sweet. Well, all right. Well, I will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for joining.
Thank you very much. Bye, everybody. Stay
Bye.
resilient.